Hello, enjoy today's tutorial.
Alright, hey guys, this is Mr. Alex, and this is part 2 of our Flappy Bird clone. We're going to make a game, and this is the second part where I am going to show you how to spawn the obstacles or the pipes that the Flappy Bird will be flying through. And then also we are going to be including a couple of tweaks to the Flappy Bird animation and movement just to improve it a little bit more. Number one, it works a little bit more smoothly than some of the settings that we had in the first video, but I wanted to include them in this one so that you could see that it is much smoother and much closer to the original. And while we don't want to make it exactly like the original, it's nice to have some differences between the two. But initially, whenever we build something like this, we'll try to make it as close as possible, and then we can make any variations that we would like to make them a little bit more unique to what we would like it to be. So as you see, I've got Game Salad open. I've titled it Flappy Bird, and the platform is Game Salad Arcade. We want to go into our first scene. And as you'll see, I've already imported the images. Again, if you need the images, they will be in a zip file linked in the description below. One of the first things we'll want to do is add in a few of our actors. The first one, let's name that Bird. The second one, we're going to call that Top Bar. The next actor we're going to add in Bottom Bar. The third actor we want to add into here is the Spawner, and that's the item that's going to spawn the obstacles that we have. And also, I just wanted to remind you, if you wanted to jump forward to the spawning aspect of the game, the actual part 2, and do not want to see the new modifications, click on the link below and it will get you to part 2 automatically. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to change a few attributes. Let's go into our attributes aspect of our game. We want to add in a Boolean called game over, and I want to add a second one, an integer attribute, and this one is called top bar y, because that is a variable that we need to have change and under control for our bars or the obstacles or the pipes that the Flappy Bird will be flying through. That is one of the controls that we are going to use. So once we have that, let's go back to our actors and let's double click on the bird. So we want to change position to be 100, and Y, we want that to be 160. The size is 30 by 25. Okay, then what we'll want to do is drag in one of the birds that we have for that. Okay, now here are where we get our tweaks for our movement in the game. So we're going to create a couple rules. The first one is you want to change actor receives event to an attribute, and when this one, we're going to click game over. Okay, so when game over is false, so the times we are playing and the game is not over, these attributes, these actions, these behaviors must come into play. So what we're going to want to do is create a new rule within that. Drag that into here. When the actor receives an event of a key press, let's select our space bar, and when it is down, okay, we are going to find our behaviors, and we want to insert a timer. This is one of the tweaks that I discovered, that when you use a timer, it acts a little bit more like the original Flappy Bird, and when you press the space bar, it only goes up a certain distance, and you can't hold on to the space bar to make it keep going up. You have to press it repeatedly, and timing it just right, timing your space bar pushes correctly to navigate your bird through that. So what we're going to want to do is change every to 4 for 0.2 seconds, and we're going to run that to completion. Well, what do you want to have happen within that 0.2 seconds? We are going to want our bird to move to. So find your move to behavior. Let's drag that in, and we want to put that within the timer. So we are still going to have our position of 100, and then in our Y, let's click in the E, and we're going to want our bird and our position of Y, and we're going to tag onto that plus 30. So every time we hit the space bar, we're going to want it to go up a distance of 30 units. Actually, let's do this. Let's change it to 20, because I've been playing around, with the different variables, and 20 seem to work pretty well. And we're going to keep our speed at 300. So the next thing we're going to want to do is, once how we originally had it that when our space bar is in the up position, it begins to fall. But one way we can do that without saying the space bar needs to be up is, outside of that, these conditions right here that are all nested within this one rule, anything outside of that now is going to accelerate toward. So let's accelerate toward. We're going to change the position to 100. The Y we want to make 40. Okay, and acceleration, we're going to change it a little bit to 150. So the position, our X position, our X is going to be 100, and the up and down, we want it to go to 40 and an acceleration of 150. So what that means is, when all this is not happening, the Flappy Bird is going to start falling towards the ground. So let's go back to our scenes and initial scene, and we're going to want to drag our Flappy Bird into position. And let's test that just to see how that looks. Okay, oops. Not too bad. It's got a lot of movement. Okay, we'll just let that be for now. Okay, pretty good. So let's get to the spawning aspect of this. So for our spawner, let's double click on that. We don't need any images for this one, so we're not going to drag one in. But one of the first things we're going to want to do is drag in a timer. So we can leave it at 5 seconds. We are going to want to change an attribute. Of that, change attribute. And what that means is every 5 seconds the bars are going to be in a different position so that it gives a challenging gameplay. So one time it's going to be up here, and then the second set of bars is going to be closer to the bottom, and it changes. The variables change. So what we want to do is the attribute we want to change is the under game, the top bar Y, and we want that to be changed through a random number chooser. And the ones that'll work out with this one, let's start off with 300. The second one is 450. Okay, click the check mark. And once that happens, we're going to want to spawn an actor. Okay, so the actor we want is the top bar, and we want that at position 600. And then for the Y value, let's click, where are you? Game, top bar Y. Give that an OK right there. Everything else should be the same. And then we want another spawn actor. Okay, spawn actor, we have the top bar, and now we want the bottom bar. Position 600. Okay, and then the second one, we want to choose the game, top bar Y, but remember that we want to create a gap in between the two of the bars. And so what we want to do, if they are spawned at the same time, we are going to create the gap by saying negative minus 400. Okay, so the top bar will be created simultaneously. The bottom bar will be created, but at a distance of 400 units. And we click the OK on that. And let's go to our scenes. Even though we're not going to be able to see this, let's drag the spawner over to this side, and let's change the size. We're going to shrink it just so it's smaller and off in the corner, off screen. And you won't be able to see that actually in gameplay. We'll show that in a second. Next thing we're going to do is go to our top bar. Let's change the size. Position we don't need to change because that's going to vary, but the size that we want it to be is 25 in width and 300 in height. So it's going to be tall and thin. Let's actually bring our images over. Since this is our top bar, let's bring the one that's facing down like that. In the right hand side, what we're going to want to do is create, drag over a move to from our behaviors. Move 2, we're going to drag that into the right hand side. X is going to be negative 50. The Y is going to be our top bar, position Y. Okay. Click the check mark, looks good. And we want that at a speed of 50. Okay. Well, what we can do is select that, and we're going to press for Macs, I think it's Apple C, or the command button C. And PC, I forget which one it is to copy. I think it's Alt C. And then what we're going to want to do is go backwards to our bottom bar, and let's just go into this area. We're going to do our Apple or Command V to paste that in there. It's going to be exactly the same. Let's change the size here to 25 and 300. And this is our bottom bar, so let's choose our image. We're going to drag it into there. Oops, the bottom bar is actually facing up, so that should work there. And actually, if everything was done properly, it should turn out pretty well. So once we press preview, oops, let's just give it a few clicks here, and in just a second we should have our, there we go. I think it actually makes it much more difficult with it zigging and zagging back and forth like that. Oof. There we go. Good job. Now what we'll want to do is go back to our scene, and what I want to do is let's bring in our background. We can send backward. Oops, send to the back. So everything is in front of that. And let's pull a cloud over here. Oops, let's shrink that down a little bit. And we might want to bring another one that maybe might be just a little bit bigger. And let's bring in our sun. Shrink that down a little bit. And actually what would be kind of cool is if we had kind of mixing in with the clouds there. I'm going to bring in a couple of buildings into the scene. Shrink that down. And one of the things that I want to remind you is you don't really want it in front of the bird, because that will cause a distraction and not look right when you are playing the game. So shrink that down a little bit. Okay. Looks like my background disappeared, so send it back. Okay, Not too bad. And let's see, I thought there was another set of buildings. Okay. Shifting these things around a little bit, I think that would be good. One more set of buildings. Okay, and of course again, I've got to bring that back in, send to the back. Alright, not too bad. So, if we press preview, we can see, oops. We can see our Flappy Bird properly moving up and down and flying through the clouds. And we see that gameplay actually looks pretty good, but what we want to do is tweak out exactly where the layers are, what's in front of what, and we probably should get the bars all the way up in the front, the blue background all the way in the back, the buildings, the clouds, and the sun somewhere in the middle. So happy tweaking, and next week, next Monday, we will be going into the next aspect of the bird hitting the pipes. And actually, I challenge you to, if you wanted to, try to figure that out. And actually, we've used those, we've used the same behaviors in our first game that we did, the Star Wars Asteroids. So see if you can figure out what that is, and see if you could come up with a completed, not completed game, but a more functional Flappy Bird come Monday. So, and we'll do a little show and tell. So I hope you're all well and we're able to figure that out. We'll talk to you on Monday.